Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my channel. Hi. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Tabs, and I am the maker and creator behind Safari Stitches, and welcome to my channel. Today is a market recap, which I know we all love market recaps. It's our favorite. It's my favorite content to consume. I like to see what things are selling, what people are making, what people are just overall doing, and I love celebrating other people's success. So let me know in the comments if you've had a recent success in your business. I would love to know and celebrate with you. Anyways, like I said, today is a market recap video. I will insert some footage of the day of my setup and everything. Unfortunately, I was not able to get a whole lot of footage. This venue is an active and open business, and at the time of setup, it was open to the public, so there were people walking back and forth while we were setting up, and I didn't want to have to film and then edit over and blur out faces and all sorts of crazy stuff. So I was not able to get footage of me actually setting up, but I did get footage of the final setup while we were there after we were done. Just to give a little bit of a background, I have done a couple of markets now at this specific venue. I've never done one of their night markets before, so this was a first for me. It was hot. It was hot and muggy. The setup was from it was either 1 or 12 to 3. I think it was 12 to 3. The market started at 4 and it went from 4 to 9, so it's a 5-hour market. It costs $125 to set up at this market. However, I don't know if you guys have seen my March market recap. I did that market and they had to reschedule it to the day after that it was at. Basically it was supposed to be on a Saturday and they had to reschedule it to a Sunday. And for the inconvenience of rescheduling, and if you still participated in that market, they actually gave me a 50% off discount on the next market I wanted to be a part of. So I used that this time. So I only paid $62.50 to be at this market, which was a crazy blessing because I'll get into this in a little bit. We are having a lot of things that we are having to scramble to have repaired and fixed on our house. And it was a crazy blessing to get a discount like that, and especially for such a successful market. Of course, you guys have already seen how much I made based on the graphic at the beginning of this video. It was a very successful market. I'm thrilled, and I will be signing up for the next one. I believe the next one is in August. They haven't released the applications for it yet, but obviously stay tuned because we will be doing that one together as well. We got there to set up at about 12:45, 1 o'clock. We unloaded everything. I don't know why I give myself so much time to get set up at markets, because when there's two of us, it goes so quickly, especially because I generally keep my my setup and layout fairly consistent from market to market. I do switch up things a little bit. Like this time you'll see in the footage, I set up the front a little bit differently this time than I usually do because of some of the products that I had with me. And I'll go ahead and just insert that while I'm talking so you can kind of see my layout. But basically the way this is set up is there's a covered porch, like a very, very large covered porch. And then they provide tent setup for everybody in the parking lot. So they usually have 2 or 3 rows of tents that they have set up, and they just assign you your booth and you unload and set up. So we don't have to take tents, which is really nice. I was on the porch this time. I've been on the porch pretty much for every market that I've done for them so far, which was a crazy blessing for this market. You will see why. We got set up pretty quickly. We were done by 2:30, and the market didn't start until 4. And of course, it was open to the public, so there were people walking back and forth. I actually made my first sale while we were sitting there waiting for the market. It was 2:45 or 3 o'clock. I made my first sale, but it was to another vendor. And I'll get into my sales here in a minute. But like I said, this was a very successful market. We did hit 4 figures, which is, that's my goal this year. Is, I mean, most of my markets, my goal is to do $150 to $200 an hour. So kind of depending on that, it's anywhere from like 700 to 800 ish, because I typically only do 4 to 5 hour markets. So that is my goal at every market, is to do $150 to $200 in sales every hour, on average, obviously, because sometimes I have hours where I make one sale and then other hours where I sell 10 or 12, 15 things or whatever. So that's kind of how I gauge whether or not a market is worth it for me to do again. So as you saw, my layout was the same. I had my grid walls on one side, I had my 2 tables, and then I have my little wooden plant stand at the front, and then just different display items like my crates and all of that. Of course, everything that I have in my display, if you're curious where I got it, I will link everything that I got from Amazon in my Amazon storefront that is below, if you would like to go take a look at all of that. I think there's a tab under that that just says like market supplies or market display, something along those lines. That everything that I got from Amazon that I currently use and recommend will be there. I will never link anything that's garbage. The one thing that is not linked is the tablecloths, because I wasn't a huge fan of the quality. So I'm trying to figure out, because these are the ones that are open in the back, so they kind of stick down. They don't attach to the legs, which I really like, because the ones that go underneath the legs of my table, they get dirty really quickly. So I am trying to find an alternative, and I really like the ones that have the open backs on them so that I can store stuff under my table and you can't see it from the front, which with the stretchy ones that go under the legs, you can see boxes under the table, and I don't like that. It's just like a personal preference for me. So if anybody has any recommendations of the tablecloths that just go on the table and they're open in the back, let me know in the comments below. I would love to explore some other options. The ones I got are not very good. So I will not be using them again. But yeah, so my setup was pretty similar to last time. So about an hour and a half in, the sky just opened. It was, I mean, I've never personally experienced like a categorical monsoon before. Like, I know there's parts of the world that literally get monsoons, but if anything, this was the closest thing that I can imagine in my brain would be like a monsoon. I mean, it was just a deluge of water. Like, there was a river going down the street or the parking lot in between the 2 layers of tents. Like I said, we were so incredibly fortunate to be on the porch, because we didn't really have, like, we pushed stuff closer to the brick wall. So because the wind was just blowing the rain sideways, like you couldn't see outside of the parking lot. Like, it was just, and the lightning and the thunder was just crazy. They actually had to force all of the vendors and everybody into the building, or on the porch at the very least, while it was lightning and thundering. So one of my friends, or one of my vendor friends that I've gotten very close with, she actually lost quite a lot of her product. She bakes bread and like other baked goods and stuff, and it came on so quickly. Nobody had a chance to really throw things in bags or boxes and close up or whatever. A couple of vendors were prepared and had the tent walls, so they just put the tent walls up around their entire tent, and I think most of their product was okay. But I mean, I kid you not, you guys, I have never in my life, like, that was the craziest thing I've ever experienced at a market. It was insane. And like I said, we were extremely, extremely fortunate that we were on the porch. Some of my stuff did get a little bit damp, but we had some towels randomly by a chance in the car, so we were able to kind of dry them off, and they were perfectly fine. But about 50% of the vendors that were in the tents ended up packing up and leaving, which I 100% do not blame them. I would have done the exact same thing had I been under the tents, because I wouldn't have wanted my products to get soaking wet. So that was pretty sad. I was really sad for some of the other vendors that had to leave. A lot of the food vendors left. There were a couple of others that had like fine art. Like this is a very eclectic market. There's a lot of painters and sculptors and all sorts of stuff. And so they all did, like some of them did pack up to leave. However, because I was on the porch, like I said, they kind of forced everybody onto the porch and inside the building while it was lightning and thundering. And there was about probably maybe 7 or 8 vendors on the porch that were set up. So of course, everybody was shopping at our booths because we were the only ones that could really function while it was storming. So again, I don't know if that played a part in it. Either way, it was pure chaos for about an hour and a half. The lightning was nuts. It knocked the power out for about 5 minutes until the generator kicked back on. Like it was crazy. Again, I was so extremely glad that I was underneath the porch. Definitely a blessing. Anyways, that said, like I mentioned already, we did hit 4 figures in sales, which is exciting. I love a market that hits 4 figures. I'll tell you guys the official total at the end, so stay tuned for that because it's a pretty good one. But I'm going to try and be as efficient as possible. First off, say hello to Wozy. He's awake. Good morning. Hi. Do you want to say hi to everybody? You may notice my background looks a little bit different. This weekend, we went crazy on this room, and I'm really excited. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do a full office tour, because I don't think I've ever done that on this channel, and I would love to if you guys are interested in that. But Rosie's got like a little strawberry print cooling mat that we found. It was like at Aldi for like $16, and she's getting so hot right now because it's so toasty outside. So she's a happy girl. Yeah. She's a happy girl. She's really tired. She has an infection in one of her teeth. And it was like the size of a softball yesterday. And for whatever reason, it's not there today. Because she was going to go to the vet this morning. But since it's gone down, I'm wondering if her and her sister were playing and she like smacked it on something and it was just swollen. I don't know. So we're waiting until tomorrow to see if we have to take her to the vet. Yeah. She's like, please leave me be. Anyways, I'm going to be as efficient as possible here going through all of my sales. I will pop up pictures as I'm talking so you can see what sold. We sold a lot and it's very exciting. So I'm going to go in the order, basically by, let's see, let me resort these really quick because I want to go by review, I think. Oh boy, I don't remember how to do this. Oh, here it is. Sort by net items sold. Yeah, let's do smallest to largest. Let's do that. Okay. So, like I said, this is not in the order that they were sold, but it's the order basically from least number of items sold to most number of items sold. And I will pop up pictures. I took pictures of literally everything, as you saw in my last video, before my market. So I actually have photos of the physical items that sold at this market, which is really exciting. That's never happened. I usually have to find an older photo from like my photo bank or whatever. So first and foremost, I made one of the small anchor, the octopus, and he sold for $50. And I do charge tax. I will give you the prices of these without tax included. And then at the very end, I will give you my total sales, including taxes, and then total sales, not including taxes, just to kind of give you guys an idea. The next thing that sold, I sold a fox snuggler, and I will link all of my patterns. Similar to the last market recap, I will set up a blog post over on my website, and I will house all of the links over there just to make it a little bit easier for everybody to find everything. And that way I won't forget to include something because I always seem to forget something. Fox snuggler, Mama Made Minis fox snuggler. I sold that for $45. Another Mama Made Minis unicorn snuggler. I sold one of those for $45 as well. And I sold the large bear snuggler by Mama Made Minis as well for $45. So 3 of my Mama Made Minis sold. Next is I sold an elephant snuggler, the May the Elephant, the pink sparkly one that I've literally had for, probably since February, I'm pretty sure, is when I first made that. And I'm super, super excited. She finally found a home, and that sold for $45. Next is my personal favorite, my cow plushies. That one sold for $35. And I believe it was the brown and white cow that sold. Next, I sold my string of pearls plant, which was really exciting, and that sold for $30. I sold my curly plant for $30 as well. That one I sold right at the end as we were packing up. A vendor ran up and she's like, "Oh my gosh, can I please buy something from you really quick?" We were like mostly packed up, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And she was like, "I really wanted that curly plant." So I dug it back out and it sold to her. Next, I sold one of my sea turtles for $30. I sold my Rowan the Rhino plushie. That was the first thing that sold to another vendor at about 2:45 before the market even started. That sold for $30. That I was really excited about that. The next item to sell was my Peekaboo Sunflower. This is a Sierra Stitches pattern. I was fortunate enough to test that pattern for her, and that sold for $30. I sold one of my squids for $25. I sold my small dragon for $20. It was the free pattern by Dr. Chaco over on Instagram. That sold for $20. I sold one crochet chicken for $15. Chickens have really, really just fallen off for me. It's the Mabel the Chicken pattern. I don't know if it's just not the place. I don't know, but I haven't made a single new chicken in forever. I've had these same chickens hanging out since last year. People here just they used to be really into the chickens, and now not so much. Next was a Della Duck snuggler. I sold 2 Della Duck snugglers at this market for $40 each. Oh boy, this is going to confuse me because it's selling me a total. I thought it was, never mind. Anyways, it's not important. So I sold 2 of those. I know I sold one mallard, and I believe the other one was a white duck. I think I sold one white one and one mallard. Next sold items were the Bitty Cow Snugglers. I think Cookie the Cow by Raven and Jade Co. Sold 2 of those for $30 a piece. And then this market, randomly, I sold 2 of my cotton bandanas for $18 each. I haven't sold a bandana since last summer, probably. I've been stuck with the same 4, and I sold 2 of them at this market. So that was really fun and exciting. I sold 2 hatching chicks for $18 each. I sold 2 leggy frogs for $12 each. I sold 2 car coasters for $10 each. I know I sold a chicken. I can't remember what the other one was. Sorry. Mushy Boys. I sold 3 Mushy Boys. I don't sell Mushy Boys very frequently, and I sold 3 of those, and they are $15 a piece. I sold 3 possums at this market for $15 a piece. I sold 3 of my baby bees for $10 each. I sold 4 of the chubby ducks. Literally all of the mallards sold. That's it. I didn't sell a single white duck. I sold 4 mallards of the chubby birds. Don't know. Last time I was at this venue, it was the white ones that sold out, and I had to replenish all of the white ones. This time I sold all of the mallards. I don't know what happened. But those are $15 each. And now we're into the top 3, so like the top 3 sellers at this market. Number 3 is the mini axolotl, which is the Crochet Grove axolotl pattern. I sold 5 of those, and those are, hold on, $16 a piece. The number 2 bestseller, which honestly didn't surprise me at all, were the Mini Mons. The Mini Mons by Beckmade Studio. I sold 8 total. I will say I didn't sell a single Togepi, and I only sold 1 Snorlax. Charmander was the most popular. I think I sold 3 out of the 5 of those. And then the other Bulbasaur and... I'll pop them up on the screen. These 3 were the other 3 that sold really well. I mean, I only had 5, so it was just the other 3 that I had. Oh, Squirtle. Charmander was definitely a fan favorite, but those, I sold 8 total of those, which is really, really exciting. And those I am selling for $15 a piece. And then the number 1 seller, which was not at all a surprise to me, are the mini loaf cats. I sold 9 mini loaf cats, and I sell those for $12 a piece. Oops. Yeah, $12 a piece. I sold 9 of them. And this time it was any of the loaf cats that had gray in them totally sold out first. Those were the first to go. And surprisingly, I have the 2 orange cats left, which is the opposite of the last time. So that is everything that I sold. I sold a total of 61 items at this market, which is a lot. And the net sales, not including taxes, was $1,223, which is, for a market where it pretty much monsooned for an hour and a half, I am absolutely over the moon. I'm still thinking about it. And then the total sales, including taxes, was $1,315.43. So overall, it was a fantastic market. 61 items at a market for me is like unheard of. On average, last year, I was selling 20 items every market. I was doing mostly, and not even that, sometimes it was mostly between 15 and 20 items. So to be tripling that count selling at markets is just obviously, like, it makes me feel like I'm actually doing something right here. And quite frankly, we could use this extra cash, because I know I've told you guys we're having to get our front flower beds landscaped because they're just so completely out of control, and that's costing us quite a lot of money. Now we have 2 garage doors that don't work properly, so we're going to have to pay to have somebody come out and service those. And then please cross your fingers that we just pay a service fee and they just need to be like reset, or like a small part needs to be fixed and not the whole thing needs to be replaced. Well, then on Saturday afternoon, another limb out of, like a big limb, came out of the tree that's closest to our house. And this is the 3rd time that it's dropped a decent sized limb. The first one, it topped itself and it hit the house, and we had to go through insurance to have repairs done. And then the second time was I was spray painting some crates in my backyard underneath this tree, and I moved. I don't remember why I moved, but I moved from one spot to another spot, and literally 5 minutes later, a limb fell where I was before. So obviously something in my brain was telling me, like, hey, you need to get out of the way. So I don't know. That was kind of insane. And then the third one was obviously over the weekend. and my fiance had just walked into the garage, and the limb fell and the end of it knocked against the house and then flipped. So we just had some really close calls, and it's time to get the tree taken down. And unfortunately, it's an extremely large tree. It's very old, and it's probably rotten on the inside, because otherwise I can't think of another reason why the limbs would just drop off like that. It wasn't raining, it wasn't windy, nothing. It just like fell out of the tree. So unfortunately, that's going to cost us quite a lot as well. So thank you so much for watching this, because when you watch my videos, I do get paid by Google AdSense, and it makes me just a tiny, tiny bit of cash, but everything at this point helps, obviously. So and then last night our washing machine stopped draining. Like, it just kept on giving us an error message that it couldn't drain. And I was thinking, oh no, because that washer is probably 7 or 8 years old. So I was just like, oh, just pile it on. Just pile it on. It's fine. We're fine. We're fine. But yeah, that is basically everything in this video. I know it was a little bit short, and I wish I could get more footage of setup and stuff. Maybe at the next one it won't be quite as busy. But I hope you enjoyed it anyways. And again, if you've had a recent success in your business, it doesn't have to be just something that you're proud of in your business. Let us all celebrate with you, and comment and let us know below. I would love to celebrate and just give everybody some pats on the back, a little standing ovation. Whatever you have accomplished, if you tried a new pattern for the first time, or maybe you're trying a new yarn, or you sold your first ever item, or maybe you had your first ever market and you sold something to a stranger and it wasn't a family member. Literally anything. Like, maybe you organized your yarn stash and it's been sitting on the back burner for a long time. Let us know anything in the comments. I would love to celebrate with you, give you a little pat on the back, way to go, all of the fun things. And stay tuned. I have some really fun videos coming up. I have a list of fun little challenge videos, and those will be there. And then obviously, hopefully we'll have another market in August. July is really hot here, so I probably will not sign up for anything in July unless something really, really amazing comes up and I feel like participating in the heat. But for the most part, I think I'm done until August. So if you have any other video ideas, like maybe you've seen a recent challenge that you want to see me participate in, or maybe like something another creator has done in a challenge, like a challenge video. I know Ale Crochet did how many pickles she could crochet in an hour or 2 hours or something, and that was a really fun video to watch. So if you have ideas like that, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, y'all.